get chills every single time I hear that anthem. It brings up so many memories. It's one of the best anthems in the world.
I love it. Christian, have you learned the words to that anthem yet?
Of course. Yeah, it gets me going every time.
It takes a little bit to get going, but it's a lot of fun. Hey, guys, my name is Kevin Jesus. That's Mitch Ferreira and Christian Ferreira. Welcome to TUDO TUGA, the Everything Portuguese Soccer Podcast by the fans, for the fans. This is so much fun. This is our very first episode. We're so glad you could join us. And really, it's all about three guys who are absolutely passionate about Portuguese soccer. We love talking about it, and we want you to join us in this conversation. So sit back, maybe grab an espresso, maybe a pastel nata. I know Christian went to the bakery this morning to help the boys over there with it. So enjoy, have some fun. But just like anything, like a first date, you want to get to know each other. So why don't we start with the two guys who basically will be running the show. I'm the referee. They're the experts if you want to go with that. So it is Christian, it's Mitch. So why don't we start with you, Christian? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
What's going on? Welcome to the podcast. Yeah, my name's Christian, diehard Portugal fan, as well as my friend Mitch here. A little bit about myself. Yeah, diehard soccer fan, big Portugal fan. And yeah, me and Mitch wanted to make this happen because we do this every weekend regardless. So why not make a podcast out of it, right?
And you're a little bit of a Sportingista too.
Yeah, just a little bit. We got a Sportingista and a Benfiquista here, so.
I know, I feel bad for the Benfica. We felt bad. So it's kind of like charity, allowing them to be part of it, even though they finished third this year. Mitch, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Guys, I've been a big Portugal fan since 1996 was the first game I can remember watching. It was Portugal-Turkey in the Euro 96 group stage. I still remember Fernando Couto, that big fucking premiere of his scoring the winning goal, and ever since then I've been a nut for soccer. I am a diehard Benfiquista as well, but it's Euro time, and it's time to put clubismos aside and get ready for Euro. Christian and I have suffered a lot, Kevin too, throughout the years with the Seleção. Luckily enough, in 2016 we finally got that to celebrate the first Euro Cup, which was phenomenal.
Excellent. That's great, guys. So let's get right to it. Euro 2020, which is a little weird because it's 2021, but we all know the deal and why that's been delayed, is just around the corner. And in preparation of it, Portugal has a pair of international friendlies, so one against Spain, one against Israel. The game against Spain just finished up on Friday, and it was a scoreless draw in Spain. ESPN called it a thrilling game. But Portugal's missing some key players as well. So, boys, what'd you think of it? Why don't we start with you, Mitch? Should we be excited? Should we be worried about a scoreless draw against Spain?
Oh, guys, this is tough. You know, the one of the big issues going into this Euro was Fernando Santos trying to find chemistry in this team and trying to link this incredible pool of talent that we have with Cristiano Ronaldo. Let's call a spade a spade. This is what he's trying to do. And I feel like this team lacks identity. It just does. Fernando Santos changed up the formation a little bit, went with a 4-2-3-1 rather than the 4-3-3. In an attempt to get a little bit more out of our midfield, get a little bit more control in the midfield, and get a link between those three. So essentially, he goes with Renato Sanches in a classic 10, in behind Ronaldo, and basically with Jota and Felix either side of him. There was no chemistry. None. He goes with Danilo and Sergio Oliveira in the midfield. Sergio Oliveira looked lost. He looked lost. Danilo played really well. I think Danilo was one of the best players on the field for us in that classic kind of holding CDM role. But Sergio Oliveira was lost, man. There was no chemistry. Like, Ronaldo was up there by himself. And we were not getting we were not getting what we normally want to see out of this team. Like, Renato Sanches was great because he was ripping through the midfield. That speed was explosive. Aguentava com aquele makeup, like, it was good. But man, as soon as you got up to Ronaldo, there was no gel. There was no chemistry. Like, you saw in the first half, Renato Sanches picks up the ball, that speed, he breaks through the midfield, he comes up, he's got Jota, Felix, and I think it is Danilo to his left. Ronaldo to his right. All three guys completely stood still, waiting for a pass. Nobody's making runs. Nobody's doing anything. Renato Sanches passes it off to Ronaldo to his right. And again, nobody's moving. And then he lays it off to Nelson Semedo, and he hits a 30-yard field goal. Like, there was no chemistry with that attack.
Okay, but does it matter? Does it matter about chemistry when you're missing so many guys? I mean, the Manchester City players just got there today, and today's their first time practicing. Christian, does it matter?
Of course it matters. We're missing some really key players like Bernardo Silva. I think he solidified himself as, a starter no matter what. We also have he just actually won it today. I didn't know if you know that. Ruben Diaz won FPL Player of the Year or EPL Player of the Year. So, yeah, we are missing some really key elements. But that being said, my thoughts on Fernando Sanches, like, I love him. I love what he did for us. He'll always have a place in my heart. He got us our first trophy ever. But I'm sort of contemplating if he's the right guy right now for this pool of talent that we have. I don't think he got the most out of the players yet. I still think going into this Euro, we don't have an identity. We don't have a solidified 11 yet. So I have a lot of questions to ask, but I'm not hitting the panic button yet. Like Kevin just said, we're having a lot of key players coming back into our lineup. So, yeah, I'm not hitting the panic button yet. So I'll make my final analysis on this team before I hit the panic button against Israel, because I feel like that's the game that we'll see more of, like, what Fernando Santos is thinking coming into this Euro.
Okay, but, this is typical Portuguese soccer fans right here, though. We always have that fatalistic opinion about everything. It's always, Fernando Sanches isn't going to get this done. But then in 2016 in League of Nations, look what happened. We ended up winning the championship doing that way, right? It always seems like we're always down in the dumps going into every single tournament. It seems like anytime we go into a tournament where we're kind of favored, that's where we struggle. So maybe almost this is a good thing for us. But you talked a little bit about Portugal-Israel. That's the next game coming up on Wednesday, June 9th, a big game in preparation. I would imagine that game was lined up as that they're probably as similar to Hungary as you could possibly get. So, Mitch, what are you kind of expecting out of that game? What do you hope to see?
Oh, we need to get more out of our attacking. Our players there needs to be chemistry. And I'm gonna bring this up. I go back to Portugal, Croatia in the Nations League. We beat Croatia 4-1. This is one of the best games I have seen our seleção play with this current lot of players. But guess what? There was no Cristiano Ronaldo. And I love Cristiano Ronaldo. But this team, I do believe, struggles to find a way to gel with him. And, is Fernando Sanches going to be the coach to take Ronaldo off? No. You're not going to get a team that starts without Ronaldo. But we need to try to get that type of chemistry going. You remember the game against Croatia? These guys were unbelievable, man. It was tic-tac. These guys were putting on a clinic. Jota, Felix. It was Cancelo on the wing coming up, cutting in. He scored that cracker from outside the 18. Like, that's the type of soccer we want to see our seleção start playing. Mm-hmm. And, against Israel, I think Fernando Sanches needs to try to get that out of these guys. These guys need to start flowing. See, my worry with Fernando Sanches and we saw it against Spain. It was still that very sit back, defend mentality. And to your point earlier about Fernando Santos, and whether or not he's the right guy for this lot of players, he was the great coach for us when we were Ronaldo plus 10. We're not Ronaldo plus 10 anymore. We have arguably the most skilled team this selection was ever put together. But he's got to find a way to get Ronaldo to click with these kids, man. So I want to see that against Israel. He's got to maybe, work in training this year to get these guys.
So is there enough time to do that, Christian? Can they get enough in that game against Israel to build some of that chemistry that appears to be lacking?
Well, I personally just think time will tell. Like, that's what I'm saying. I'm excited for this Israel game. I think that's going to be the game that's, it's the last game before we go into the Euro. This is going to be our lineup essentially going into it. There's a lot of questions to be asked. And I just want to jump on what you said earlier about Ronaldo and stuff. I still go back. I think that's a Fernando Sanchez issue. If you have a player like Ronaldo with his character, it's your job to find the right mix to play around him. And if you're mixing up, like, how many times have we switched our front three? How many times have we switched our midfield? You know what I mean? Like, you have to have an identity. You have to have like the second game out before the Euro, you got to have, something lined up. You got to have, a formation or a game that we can say, wow, like this team's gelling. Because like you said earlier, this is the most skillful Portugal team we've ever had, or arguably ever had, maybe besides 2004, 2006. But yeah, he's got to put it together. And again, I'm not trying to make this the Fernando Santos roast. I love him. I love what he did. Like you said earlier, Kevin, he got us the Nations League. He got us 2016. But we're a different team now, and we got to make this happen. We going into this Euro. Like I was telling Mitch yesterday, actually. Every time me and Mitch would go and talk about how, like, every year going into the Euro, analysts always forget about Portugal. They don't bring us up. We're never one of the favorites. This year, for the first time, I think ever, I'm hearing analysts picking us as favorite to win this all. So yeah, it's a different generation. We got to get this going. And
well, I mean, if we take a look at it, boys, I was on CoolBet, which is a single game betting website, and I was taking a look at the favorites this morning. So France is the undisputed favorite according to them. They have the best odds, followed by England, Belgium, and then tied for fourth, Spain, Germany, and Portugal. So here's how it works. You put down $5 for Portugal to win Euro, and you would win $43.75 for a grand total of $48.75. So it's actually pretty. If you're feeling confident in Portugal, it might be good to put your money where your mouth is. But yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why Portugal isn't considered one of the favorites, obviously, is because of the group of death, and that really is. Every tournament talks about a group of death, but legitimately, you have Portugal, the defending champions. You've got France, the defending World Cup champions. You've got Germany, who's going to be one of the host cities and countries. They'll be hosting in Munich, and then Hungary as well. And as we learned in 2016, Hungary is no pushover, and we're going to be playing that game in Hungary as well. So Portugal is in tough. It is going to be difficult, but that group of death, it does seem like it's not insurmountable per se. Germany doesn't seem to be the powerhouse as they once were. France is definitely the team that scares me the most. Hungary, that first game, and especially because it is in Hungary, that's going to be a little worrisome. What do you guys think as we go into the group of death? We'll start with you, Mitch.
That's going to be tough. I think Hungary is going to be one of the hardest games, and it's going to be one of the hardest games because they're the underdogs. They have 0 to lose. Nobody's expecting anything from Hungary whatsoever. So, they've literally, they're going to go in at home, and those are the teams that Portugal sometimes struggles against because, they end up going in there and they're not able to really kind of, force their game. And Hungary is the team that, one of the good things is their young kind of star from Leipzig. He's injured. He's been injured since I think January. So he was the one that scored the winning goal. I think it was against Iceland to get them into the Euros. So he's going to be injured. But they've got a young kid there who was the leading goal scorer in the Hungarian league. 23 or 24 goals he had. The only thing, he's got not a lot of national team experience. So, I mean, it's a fairly inexperienced team. It's a very different squad than the one we saw in 2016. You remember the Avol that they had in net with the old shitty sweatpants? He's gone. So you've got, a good contingent of the players actually played for Leipzig. So you've got, a good center back there, experienced center back, a couple of good midfielders there. But overall, fairly inexperienced. On paper, this should be a game that Portugal wins very easily. But we all know, you've got a lot of kids on Portugal too that are going to be nervous coming in. This is going to be their first tournament. There's going to be a lot of nerves to kind of iron out. So that game does worry me a little bit because we need to get 3 points out of that game. We absolutely need to get 3 points out of that game. We know Germany and France are going to be tough, but that first game against Hungary, we need to have a phenomenal game. It needs to be a game that gives the players confidence. It needs to be a game where we get some goals, 2, 3, 4 goals, get the team feeling good going into the two big matchups against Germany and France. So I think that first game is really, really crucial for us to win and really get the players fired up and confident going into the Germany and France games.
Yeah, Christian, if Portugal doesn't win that game, if it's a draw, I mean, we already know if they lose, Portugal's chances, you may as well write them off. But what about a draw? Would a draw be enough? I mean, because you could get in through the third place, similar to what they did in 2016. So is a draw good enough for Portugal?
Just to touch base on what Mitch said earlier. Sums up Portugal in a nutshell. I'm more nervous about the Hungary game than the France game because that just anybody that knows Portuguese soccer, that just sums up Portugal. We always have to do it the hard way, and that's one of the reasons why we're in the group of death because we always have to do it the hard way. But yeah, sorry, could you ask that question again? I got a little.
Buddy, you're making this seem like it's all formal interview style. It's not. We're just friends having a coffee and enjoying some soccer talk. But no, seriously though, like if they draw against Hungary, that would be an okay result. I mean, obviously we want to win, but I mean, a loss would pretty much. I think we can all agree a loss in Portugal's, barring a miracle, they're done. But a draw, we might still be able to get in even through the third place route. Like, is that possible? Is that something that can happen here?
It is possible because 4 out of 6 third place teams can get in. But that being said, if we're not beating Hungary the first games, our hopes for this tournament is pretty low. We got to come in with the talent we have, with the team we have. We got to go in and make a statement.
This is my concern, Matt. We won Euro 2016. We tied all 3 games in the group stage. That's that mentality that worries me about Fernando Santos. It's like the default. Like if we're not attacking and we're not scoring goals and we're not playing well, it's like that default to go to defense mode and just try to squeak out that 1-0 victory. And that's my concern about Fernando Santos. And I really do think he is trying to find that right solution and tactical lineup that's going to get the most out of our seleção. But the fear is defense mode is his default. Sitting back, absorbing the pressure, and then trying to play on the counterattack is kind of his defense mode. And that's what we talk about, that this seleção needs to find an identity where they know who they are going into the game. It's the other teams, the other coaches that have to change their tactic to play against us, versus Fernando Santos looking at every game and having to switch his tactics to play against a France or a Germany or like that's what we're talking about with identity. And this is what the big challenge for Fernando Santos in literally the next week is going to be, is to try to find that identity.
Okay, so
because we didn't show it in qualification.
So let me jump in there. We've talked a lot about identity in this episode. The other thing, though, that we need to kind of keep in mind is this Euro is very different because there's so many host nations for it. And unfortunately, Portugal's in a group where you've got two of those host nations. You've got Hungary and you've got Germany. So they're going to be playing two essentially road games in there. And how difficult is that going to be? Because there are going to be some fans in attendance. So how difficult is that going to be to try and overcome that? Christian, you go ahead and start. Christian, you got to unmute yourself, buddy. Welcome to 2021 in the world of a pandemic, and you got to unmute. That's the way we always work in these Zoom chats. But go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but yeah, there's not 50,000 fans in attendance, and from my understanding, it's, there's going to be some Portuguese, some Hungarian, or some German, some Portuguese. At the end of the day, we got to come in, like Mitch said, come in with an identity. Those teams got to come in and be scared to play us, especially now. And that being said, I feel like he's playing too defensive. He's not getting the most out of a player like Bruno Fernandes. If you look at Bruno Fernandes on Man United, he's arguably one of the best players in the EPL. I just looked at the stat yesterday. He had 45 goal contributions from the midfield last year. So, and then you look at his stats for Portugal, and it's maybe 10% of that, 20% of that. So, again, that just goes back to the coach. He's not getting the most out of the players. He's playing a very defensive mindset. And like Mitch talked about perfectly, he's adjusting his team to the other teams instead of it being the other way around. And I hate to bring up Sporting in this podcast, but one of the reasons why the Sporting coach was so successful, Ruben Amorim, is because no matter who he played, no matter what, he stuck to his identity, and the teams had to adjust to him. And they nearly were undefeated the whole year. That just goes back to identity, having teams wanting to adjust to us. So yeah, just touching up on what you said, I totally agree with you. We got to go in there with an identity. Teams got to fear us, and yeah, we got to make the most out of this squad.
So to that point, what does your ideal lineup look like?
So I could give you my ideal lineup, but I know this won't happen given how Fernando Santos.
Okay, so give me your ideal and give me what you realistically think Fernando Santos is going to put out there.
Okay, so my ideal would obviously be the main Cancelo on the right, Pep, Diaz in the midfield, Patricio in net. And there's this young player coming up. He's 18 years old. His name's Newmans. He's actually linked with Manchester City. I think price tag anywhere from 60 to 70 million. I'd play him on the left, even though Guerreiro is really, really good. My issue with Guerreiro is he's really good going forward. He's great with free kicks. He could swing in the crosses. But I find sometimes he gets caught up on the defense, especially when they're swinging in crosses. So I would play Newmans, but that's where I think Fernando Santos will go with Guerreiro. In the midfield, you know what? After seeing Danilo play last game, I would be fine with him playing. But there's also another player coming up. His name is João Palhinha. He was actually a beast last year. They call him the Portuguese Conte. I would play him, but yeah, I would be just as fine with Danilo, especially after the game he had last time. This is where it gets a little controversial. I would actually put Bernardo Silva in the midfield. And I actually looked up a stat yesterday. The last friendly that he played, he actually had 2 key passes. And he was way more effective in the midfield than he was on the wing. So I'd actually put Bernardo Silva in the midfield. And alongside, Bruno Fernandes. So the front three, this is where it gets tricky. Because there's so many options, right? I would actually play Andre Silva. Andre Silva never got a chance last game, and it blows my mind. Actually, I was talking with Mitch yesterday about it. I'm not obviously going to sit here and say he's better than Haaland, but he did outscore him this last season. So a guy that scores that many goals to not be on the field, it's sort of hard to wrap my head around that. So I would play him, and I would actually play Ronaldo on the left side. I know he's older. He's 36 years old. He probably won't be as effective as he used to be on that, but I still think we'd get more of him because he likes to get the ball, sort of closer, maybe a little bit more behind than just be stationed in the midfield, especially when you have games like the last game with Spain where he's not seeing much of the ball up top because they just passed us to death. So I'd put actually Andre Silva in the front, Ronaldo on the left, and Jota on the right. You could even swing Jota on the left, Ronaldo on the right, but that's actually the formation I'd play, or the team I'd play going into the Hungary game. Obviously, when we play Germany and France, you might have to go a little bit more defensive. But going into Hungary game to make a statement, that's the lineup I would essentially choose. What I think Fernando Santos would play, I think he would go with Guerreiro on the left, the same with Cancelo on the right, Pep, Diaz, Rui Patricio net, Danilo in the midfield. I would think he would go Renato Sanches and maybe Bruno Fernandes, and then Jota on the left, and on the right, I'll maybe say he would play Felix, or maybe Felix would be just in behind Jota and Ronaldo. That's what I think he's going to play going into Hungary.
You think he plays Felix over Bernardo Silva?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Maybe I'd play Bernardo Silva over Felix. Yeah. That's what I think he was going to play.
Mitch, what about you?
So, my ideal lineup is Rui Patricio net, Rafael Guerreiro on the left. I know you love Newmans. My issue with Newmans, he's going to be the future left back for Portugal. My concern with Newmans, number one, he's so young. Coming into a tournament like this, it's going to be really hard for him to get that confidence, especially at left back. A young kid like that coming into a tournament like this, he could be prone to mistakes. The other issue, and we've talked about this, is Newmans. First of all, I think, Ruben Amorim likes that 3-5-1, and Newmans all season has played essentially a left wing back. The defensive responsibility for Newmans hasn't been high. He's got his 3 center backs behind him. He does not have to worry so much about coming back and defending. I know Newmans can rip up the left side. He's got the speed to do it. He's got the skill to do it. My concern with him, much like your concern with Rafael Guerreiro, is just his defensive responsibility. Because you can make the same argument that Guerreiro doesn't play a left back position for Dortmund either. He plays very much a left wing back, sometimes even pure left winger, right? But Guerreiro has more experience, especially with the Seleção, playing in that left back role. And he did phenomenally against Spain. Rafael Guerreiro was man of the match, and he played very well. Even defensively, he played very well. Of course, you're going to say, we need somebody a little bit taller because he's always a liability on those back post crosses because he's so short. Can he get those headers? That's obviously a concern. We've seen it when we got knocked out of the last World Cup against Uruguay. He was a little bit of a liability on the left side. I think that's his only weakness, I'm going to say, is him defending those back post crosses where he, if he's going up against, a taller winger or a taller striker. I think that's his only weakness on the left back. But I think he starts over Newmans all day. I hope Newmans gets some minutes, maybe against Hungary. If we're doing really well, maybe Fernando Santos will slide him in, or maybe even against France. If we've got, 6 points going into the game against France and we've got the next stage, maybe you try and give him some minutes. We'll see. But I think the left is dominated by Guerreiro. In the middle, Diaz, undisputed center back. You can't even argue that. I think there's an argument to be had, Font over Pep. I know people are going to be like, come on, Pep. But Font had a phenomenal season with Lille. He's a little bit younger than Pep, What a phenomenal season with Leo. I've heard a lot of guys say José could be considered one of the top center backs in Europe this year. He captained Leo to, a French league championship, and he played phenomenal against Spain. And Fernando Santos took out Pep at the end of the game. I don't know if you guys all caught that. Pep was very surprised that he got subbed at the end of the game. I'm not saying that Fernando Santos will necessarily go, nor do I even agree with Font going ahead of Pep. I'm saying there could be an argument there, but I think Pep and Diaz in the two center back roles for sure. On the right, Cancelo is obviously hands down favorite there. I was not a fan of Nelson Semedo. I'll actually be really honest. I'm a little bit surprised Nelson Semedo even cracked this team. He did not have a great season with Wolves. We watched a lot of Wolves this season, and neither of us were very impressed with Nelson Semedo. He did not go in there and have the impact that we thought he would with Wolves. So I'll be really honest. I was a little bit surprised Semedo actually cracked this team. I was expecting maybe Cedric or a couple of other. We've got a ton of amazing right backs. But anyway, Cancelo for sure on the right. In the midfield, again, like you said, this is where it starts to get complicated, and it really all depends with what tactical formation Fernando Santos is going to want to go with. If we're looking at what he did against Spain, if he's going with that 4-2-3-1, I think undisputed, center mid, kind of holding mid is going to be Danilo, and I don't think there's any issues with that. He played phenomenally against Spain, and he's had a really good season with PSG, so that's the role for sure. Now, who do you play next to him? I'm either going to say Ruben Neves or João Moutinho. I'm going to say Ruben Neves just because he's a little bit younger. I think we can get a little bit more out of him throughout the game. And he's got that phenomenal breakout pass ability. He knows how to play that center mid role. Like you saw Sergio Oliveira in that role. He was fucking lost all game last game. Sergio Oliveira didn't know where the hell he was. And to be fair to him, he doesn't usually play that kind of center mid holding position with Port. He's more of an attacking mid. So I think Ruben Neves beside Danilo, I think that's a good team. And Ruben Neves also brings that element that he can crack it up from outside the 18. We've all seen him do it for Wolves plenty of times. So he brings that threat and that element too. And then he's got that great breakout pass ability. He can pin a ball from 20, 30 yards, which is huge. So I think him and Danilo in the midfield, and then ahead of them, as much as I'd love to see Renato Sanches, because that breakout speed is phenomenal, that number 10 spot belongs to Bruno Fernandes. There's nobody else there it's going to belong to. Renato Sanches is going to be coming in off the bench, and he's going to be trying to, potentially make maybe he comes in for a Neves and kind of comes in with that breakout speed from the midfield. But the number 10 spot has to be Bruno Fernandes. Other side of Bruno Fernandes, you go Jota on the left, and on the right, you go Bernardo Silva. Bernardo Silva, I'm going to love seeing him on that right wing because he was so underutilized for Man City. He played so much in the midfield, and I don't feel that that's where his strength is. His strength is hanging out on the right wing, using his trickery, using all those silky moves to cut in from the right onto his left foot, pinning a cross in, having a shot. That's where we need to see Bernardo Silva. That's where he's going to be most effective, I think, for this lesson. So I would go up, in front of the midfield, and in that three, it's going to be Jota, Bruno Fernandes, and Bernardo Silva, and of course up front, Champion. And I think, to your point, Christian, I know where you're going with Ronaldo playing on the left to try to get the most out of Andre Silva. The problem is, and this comes back to, we got to look who's coaching this man. You're not going to get 90 minutes out of Ronaldo in a wing position. It's not going to happen. He doesn't have the legs for it. You know that. He doesn't have the legs for it. He hardly has the legs to play by himself in a striker role. And Fernando Sanches is not subbing Ronaldo off. So to put him in a left wing position, he's gonna burn himself out by the end of the first half, and then it's just gonna be a mess from there. You'd have to change up the tactics. So I as much as I know what you're saying about trying to get the most out of Andre Silva, I just don't know that Fernando Sanches is going to be switching it up to put him on the wing. I don't see it happen. I don't see it happening. But I think he's up front, and like that, you can potentially sub him off for Andre Silva. But I just don't think that Fernando Sanches is ever going to be taking Ronaldo off. in the big
Right.
games anyway.
There was some good analysis there. Obviously, we'll chat more about this in coming episodes, especially next week, as the next episode just before the start of Portugal's games at Euro 2020. Okay, let's just quickly mention some either players that or someone that you're kind of keeping an eye on. We'll call it the Saggy Star of the Week, presented by Saggy Pair North America, the best solutions for coverings, interior and exterior for your home. Just take a look behind Christian, that wall, beautiful Saggy Pair right there. My ceiling as well, wonderful done. Shameful promotion. But why don't we start with Mr. Saggy Pair himself, Mitch, really quick. Who is your Saggy Star of the Week? Then we'll go to you, Christian.
Saggy Star's got to be Rafael Guerreiro. I was really impressed with him, man. He played lights out against Spain. He was really, really good. I was really impressed with him. That was my star. If I have to pick somebody to watch, somebody who I'm going to be excited to see, it's going to be Pedro Gonçalves. But from Sporting, I'm really excited to see. He had a phenomenal season with Sporting this year. Obviously, the first Portuguese player to win, the leading goal scorer since Domingos Paciência in like 1995, right? So really, really huge accomplishment for Pedro Gonçalves. And I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table. I know he's a little bit nervous coming in against Spain, but I'm really excited. So if I can pick one guy who I'm excited to see if he brings something different, it's Pedro Gonçalves. And my kind of star of the week was Rafael Guerreiro, first performance against Spain.
Okay, what about you, Christian?
So I have two there. Man of the match for me last game.
Hold on a sec, Christian. You're muted again. We should get like a little award, the mute award.
So my man of the match last game was actually Renat Sanch. I thought he had a great game. I thought he had a lot of identity. He wanted to bring the ball up. He reminded me of 2016 Renat Sanch. That's why that midfield role is going to be hard to pick, really hard to pick. My player to watch also, I'm with Mitch, is Pedro Gonçalves. One thing he failed to mention about him, he's actually was Ravin Fernandes' replacement at Sporting, and he's also a midfielder. And from the midfield position, he won, the top goal scorer in Portugal. The young player to watch out for, we talked about it earlier, is Newmans. Although I don't think he's going to get much playing time because Guerreiro, he's one of those pillars in the back that, he solidified his role. He's been part of the national team for a very long time, but he's definitely a player to look out for. Another one to also look out for is João Palhinha. Again, with Danilo there, I doubt he'll see a lot of playing time, but yeah, he was an absolute beast in the midfield. And to talk to a lot of Portuguese analysts, they say he's the best CDM we got right now, and there's an argument to be made about that.
Well, I'm going off the board, guys, and my Saggy Star of the Week, Sergio Conceição, for signing a 3-year deal with FC Porto to return as manager for them. That was a big move on their part. They really needed to keep him there, so good for them. Okay, we're just about done, but again, just so we talked about, this whole point of this podcast is for us just to have fun and just have this conversation. We want you watching or listening to just enjoy and feel part of it. And to feel part of that, we also want to share some of our personal stories. And one of them, which is probably one of my all-time favorite, goes back to 2016, Euro 2016. And it was at the old Saggy Pair headquarters. And we were watching Portugal versus Wales in the semifinal. And as soon as that game ended, Christian, you ended up making one of the biggest moves of your entire life. Why don't you tell us about that story?
Yeah, this just goes to show how close me and Mitch we are. I know him, since I was a kid, and we've always shared this love for Portuguese soccer. We were actually watching the game together, and I booked the flight to the final about at the 70th minute during the Wales game. And I actually, not to drag the story on too much, we celebrated that win. I booked that flight. I actually had a wedding the night before I had to fly out. So I was actually up till 3 a.m. I had to catch a flight at 6 a.m. So I didn't sleep much that night, but it was worth it in the end. And a lot of people doubted we'd win. I took the risk. I said I was just going to go no matter if we win or lose, just for the experience. And of course, it paid out. And I got the best view of that header goal. I was literally right behind that net. And yeah, it was probably the best moment of my life, hands down, seeing that goal live and celebrating with the Portuguese fans. And of course, seeing Ronaldo lift his first international trophy and Portugal lift their first international trophy was definitely a special memory for me.
And that's what it's all about. And I'm sure we're all jealous and envious. We all wish we could have been there. Mitch, you were at a coffee shop, I think, for the final. I was at your parents' place watching the game. Yeah, it was pretty remarkable. But all right, guys, that wraps up episode number 1 of TUDO TUGA, the Everything Portuguese Soccer Podcast. Coming up in our next episode, we will obviously break down the Portugal-Israel game, and we'll take a look ahead to the group of death: Portugal, France, Germany, and Hungary. We'll also give our final predictions for Euro 2020 in 2021. So for Christian Ferreira, Mitch Frere, I'm Kevin Jesus. Thanks so much for listening, and hope to see you again soon. Have a good one.
Força Portugal.
Força.